My big thing that I'm trying to figure out really is more of a business model question. I think at this point, I mean, everything always looks good to me on paper when I'm doing, and I was just doing 100-hour weeks. So in my deluded mind, I'm like, oh, everything's fine. And I do a lot, but I feel like not a lot of what I think is happening is actually really happening, which I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I'll spend time in my mind thinking that processes are going well, but they're really not. So I'm seeing that now. But the main catalyst for that really is at a $28,000 to $35,000 month. I'm okay. Everything seems to be going pretty good. But now, January and February, we were at 40,000, and we have 50 to 60 on the table signed for March and April, and still trying to keep the estimates flowing. And now I feel like I'm maxed out again, even though I have another 60 hours a week that's back. The goal for me was never to be like, oh, I'm going to keep my 100-hour weeks going like I did for the last year, because that was torturous. So my question is, how do you get to this point where you can have your crews running, excuse me, without a lot of direct oversight? Everything Daryl said in the beginning of when we were meeting resonated with me, because I'm thinking the other way. I have a part-time project manager that started this week, which is taking a lot of time for me to get them trained up and come up with weekly checkpoints. And I'm doing Loom SOP videos to help train them up. So I'm like, all right, is that the best way to spend time? Because there's a long runway for this person to be able to do what I'm doing. So I'm just bouncing around ideas, because when I was out of the picture working a full-time job during the day, I was relying a lot on my crews, and I would designate a production leader or a foreman, however you want to say it, on the job. So they were doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now. So I give that back to them and rely more on the crews, which I found that there's only really so much that my particular crews could really take before they start to give up on some of that and say, it's better for me to just focus on painting. I have Gavin, one of my painters. He's phenomenal with customers. He can handle that. But I find that's few and far between right now, and that everyone else is mostly wanting to focus on painting. And when they don't, they forget to clean up well at the end of the job, and their staging areas don't look good because they're talking to customers and doing all this stuff. So my business model question is, what, I mean, this may be like an individual, my business question, but I'm curious to see the wider group. Are we having a strong back office or a strong office that has the project management that's more heavy on that side? Or are we relying more on our crews that are out on the field to take care of some of this stuff? And then once you get two, three crews out there that are booked out, and you're double booked because you're running multiple projects, like you have project kickoffs, two happening on Tuesday and three happening on Thursday, can't be there for all of them. So I'm just wondering what that really looks like from a production management standpoint. And then Daryl, I guess my specific question along what you said was, I'm like, man, that sounds great. I'd love to have to not be at those kickoffs, because I used to do virtual and video kickoffs while I was in Manhattan working. So
Mhm.
that's my big thing. It's like, how does this really work? Because I never had to address it, because in the past I was always like, the answer is I can't be there. So everyone has to do more.
Awesome. So to simplify the question, how to build $1 million business that can operate without you.
Yes.
Maybe
Okay.
that's probably what I'm
Yes.
saying.
So here we go. Step one, hire for character. Step one is hire for character. Now, a lot of times we think we do, and we think our guys are good, but if you consider this is all we know as our guys, and we think our guys are good because we know them, we're comfortable with them. Sometimes it's the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. You know you're hiring for character, and you have character with competence. Pardon me, character with competence. We have that if they take such good care of the customer for you that you don't even need to stop by. You have that when you stop by and the customer's like, "Oh, hey, Charlie, nice to see you. What are you doing here? Something wrong?" Right? Because they have so much confidence in the guys in the team that they've provided that security for the customer. They've provided such a great experience, right? We focus on the experience, not how they're doing a good job, but they're providing great experience. So that's the one component. The other one is that we have a strong tech stack, right, which handles all the heavy lifting of the admin and operations to deliver, to have the information ready for them. You've heard a couple mention Monday.com, and then somebody mentioned Drip Jobs, which are a couple components of a strong tech stack. So character with competence and a strong tech stack will get you to 1 million. At about the 750, 800, you'll need a part-time admin. You will not need, should not need an additional person until about 1.2 to 1.5. And at that point, it'd be a salesman, not a project manager, because your culture's so strong with competence and your tech stack is so strong that a salesman that you bring on can sell 1 million and manage it himself, because there isn't much managing, because your crews are so responsible and so competent that all they need is the information. As long as we feed them plenty of information, work orders and whatnot, they handle it and they take care of it, and they create raving fans, they collect video testimonials and get referrals and move on to the next one.
I'm sorry to cut you off. No, that's good. I had a huge rude awakening. I actually think I mentioned this to you, Steve. I thought I was hiring for character, and I realized that I was very wrong about that decision with some stuff that was going on there. But do you find that, so right now we're a hybrid, so we're like half full-time guys and half subs. This model tends to break down, in my opinion, when you're sub heavy, because I feel like the oversight is just different. Getting people aligned with your culture is a little bit different. Scheduling is a little bit different. It's a lot easier to do with crews, but also there's a lot more focus on your labor budgets, obviously, with full-time crews. I've even considered, this is a side question, I'm really unsure about this one, but there's like piecework kind of budget projects where you pay your full-time guys on a budget, you track their labor hours. As software or a program called Protiv, I think, that does that for you, where it manages labor hours, where they're getting paid essentially for their production, not on an hourly rate with employees, not so. So do you find that'll work with a hybrid sub-employee model as well? Because I just don't see that level of engagement with subs. Like, they'll do a great job, but they're still on the mentality that, like, it's my business and I'm filling in work. I'm not here committed to you necessarily.
Yeah. And that's the challenge with subs. So there are pros and cons to both. With employees, you have better control over culture and customer experience. Okay. Also loyalty. With subs, you don't have as much influence on culture and customer experience. All right. But you can scale faster. So what do we want to do? For me now, I personally, I preferred employees. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I know some guys call me like, I know you don't like subs. I've never said that. Okay. We've used subs. We'd use subs to backfill projects when we just couldn't get to them and the schedule is just busting at the seams. Okay. So subs are okay. I just prefer, me personally, I prefer to prioritize customer experience and culture. I love that more. And when I focused on that, the dollars took care of themselves. Right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great, actually. Thank you.
And in a big way. Okay.
Yeah.
Now with subs, you can scale faster, but to me, I'd rather have culture, experience, and again, the dollars take care of themselves. Yeah.
And would you ever consider paying a crew on a production basis?
I did consider it. Yeah. Many times I had a friend who we were in a mastermind together, and he had a pest control company. And that's what he did. And so I was trying to figure out a way to model. And the laws vary from state to state, but in Florida, you're allowed to do that as long as they're clearing minimum wage, which should be pretty easy for us, except if a job goes sideways and they dip below. But even still, like, we could make them whole minimum wage. It shouldn't be an issue. I have considered it, but we never implemented it.
Okay.